Nemo Radio is on the air.
A, B, C. A, always, B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
Welcome to Nemo Radio. I am so excited to have you joining me again. My name is John Nemo. This is the podcast where you come for digital marketing, motivation, sales tips, all kinds of different things, all about really engaging your audience, engaging your customers, selling your products and services online. That's what Nemo Radio is all about. Now, this episode I'm really excited to share. This is a Facebook Live I recently did where we really dove into a lot of topics all over the map. So we talked a lot about webinars, who they're right for, how do you sell, what are the platforms that you use, how do you create a presentation without really knowing any graphic designs, not having money, all kinds of little nuggets I threw into this presentation. Also talked a lot about email marketing, a lot about LinkedIn marketing, and a ton about audience engagement. So I know you're going to find this incredibly helpful. I'm so excited to share it with you. So without further ado, let me get you hooked in and we'll get rolling with this episode. For those that don't know this guy, Charles Alexander, you can see him here on the Facebook Live. If you're listening on the podcast, I think it's just linkedin.com/Charles Alexander. Charles, put your URL in. I've been really interested following this guy, Charles Alexander, and the reason is he's been really building a unique business. He does animated marketing videos. He's in Nashville, Tennessee. I know Charles through my business coach, John Morgan, and what I've been so interested in is how Charles is doing this niche marketing approach using LinkedIn, right, using the LinkedIn Riches training, but he's going after such targeted audiences. So financial service people and real estate agents, it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. I love it, I love it, I love it. YourCharlesAlexander.com. So you must be able to hear me, dude, because you put in your URL. One thing that's been interesting, and I'm showcasing Charles here a little bit because he's done a great job, YourCharlesAlexander.com. It's these animated marketing videos, but instead of trying to be everything to everybody, Charles has really taken the lessons of LinkedIn Riches to heart, which is the riches are in the niches. So, for example, here's a simple way you can use LinkedIn and the 500 million members, if you're Charles, to kind of target your marketing, right? He goes on and he uses LinkedIn search like Google, right? And he goes in and he types in financial advisor, Nashville, Tennessee. He instantly gets a list of, 100 financial advisors in Nashville. Now he can personalize his communication with them. The invitation can say, hey, I see you're in Nashville. I've lived here for how many ever years, would love to connect. The next message can be, hey, I work with a lot of financial services pros here in Nashville. I do animated marketing videos. Here's a few samples, right? Whatever it might be. But that's the idea of personalizing your marketing. And what I was talking about earlier as well, before I was so rudely interrupted by Facebook here, was really understanding this concept of permission marketing. Really talking to people, two different things. One is talking to people like they're real humans. I sent an email on Father's Day that was my most opened email and my most replied to email probably in the last year. And it was just the thoughts about my dad. Just a very human email. There was no sales pitch. There were no links. There was no read this, do that, take action. I just kind of put it out there. My dad, if you don't know the backstory, he died when I was 17 of cancer and just I've missed him. And obviously it's been years. And I was just reflecting on kind of the life lessons my dad taught me and what I miss about him and how important fathers are. And this day is Father's Day. And I don't know where you're at, if you even had a dad, if he was never around. And if that's the case, I'm sorry. And I just shared it almost just like you would write like a journal entry. And I sent it out to my whole list. And I had no idea what the response would be because this was kind of a personal email. It wasn't related to webinars or LinkedIn. And it got a massive open rate. It got a ton of responses. And people opened up and shared about their lives and their dads and, or lack thereof. And it was just a reminder to me of, oh yeah, we're dealing with humans. Like we're human beings, right? We have feelings and emotions and lives and families. And yes, we want to do business together. And yes, I want to sell products and services to the people on my email list. But I remembered this key element of people have to know me, like me, and trust me. And people have to know you and like you and trust you. And if you're only always sending just, utility type emails, here's how to improve your SEO or here's how to get more LinkedIn messages read, if you're never letting people into your life, if you're never humanizing yourself, your business, your family, what you're passionate about, it's easier for people to dismiss you, right? If you think about the brands or the companies or the people you're most loyal to, it's the people or the brands that you know best, that you have a personal, emotional attachment to. And that was just a reminder for me, and it should be for you, with your marketing, with your content, your emails, your blog posts, your status updates, be personal. Be personal once in a while and not turn it into an episode of Oprah and Dr. Phil, right? And go into all kinds of crazy stuff, but just enough to let people in. And that all depends on your comfort level, what you want to share, what you're excited about, what you're passionate about. But I think for me, just that reminder of sharing your humanity is really important. It's really important to build a bond with your audience. And that's, part of too, why I'm doing a Facebook Live, so you can see me, right? You can see me or hear my voice. It's a different level of trust and a different level of connection when someone can see you or hear you versus just reading words that you write. And so that's really something to think about. Now, I want to get into some of the questions. And for those of you watching live here on the Facebook Live, feel free to type in questions in the comments or thoughts. You can give me hearts and likes and emojis, whatever you want. But I do have a bunch of written questions, so I want to dive into those too. So, and if you want to ask questions in the chat, make sure you mention your business name, your URL, whatever. I'll give you a shout out because we've got our podcast listeners too. That'll be diving in. So, first question comes from the one and only Mark Cision. How can we use webinars to build an email list and sell a product? And he is with My Family Health Insurance, myfamilyhealthinsurance.com. Mark, how do we use webinars to build lists and sell products? Man, you know what? Well, two things. One is every time someone signs up for your webinar, you're building your email list, because in order to attend a webinar, people have to share their name and email. So they're basically opting in to communicate with you. So one of the reasons I love webinars is they're a fabulous way to build your email list. And not only that, but the quality of people that you get on your email list from a webinar is far higher, far more valuable than people who clicked on a blog post or a Facebook ad. And the reason is simple. If someone comes through one of your webinars and spends an hour with you face to face, so to speak, they really know you. They really like you and they really trust you. And they're far more likely to open your emails and buy your products, even if they don't buy on the live webinar. I've seen people come back to me 1 year, 2 year, 3 years later and buy my product out of the blue without me even knowing they were there, right? But they had been on a webinar that had started the relationship, and now the time was right to come in and buy. Something reminded them. So it's a great way to build your list, just because when you run a webinar and when you send traffic to a webinar, it's basically building your email list. For every person who signs up for your webinar, they now are on your email list. They've opted in. The other thing is webinars are the perfect platform for selling your product, right? That's the big thing, is you basically have the structure of a successful webinar, and I go through all this in webinars that work, and I got to remind you, I have a special thing going on with that. But the way that selling works on webinars is it's natural. It's easy if you do it right. Because think about it. When you start a webinar, you warm up your audience, you engage them, and you get them going, and then you teach and you train, and you really make it clear what's in it for my audience. What do they get out of it, right? I'm going to show you how to lose 30 pounds without starving, or I'm going to show you how to get, how to choose the right insurance provider for your family, because I know Mark is My Family Health Insurance, right? So I'm going to teach you something that's of benefit to you, not just I want to pontificate about myself and what I think, the state of affairs of insurance, but I'm going to give you some practical tips and tools that are going to help you achieve a goal that you want. That's the first, 3/4 of your webinar. Now, the final quarter of your webinar is selling the associated product or service. So it's a natural extension. It's basically saying, if you're really liking the free training I'm giving you today, if you're seeing and envisioning how this can help you achieve these goals you want, if you want it easier and faster and done for you, then I've got this product, I've got this service, here you go, right? I'm going to hand it to you. And then you add in urgency and scarcity, right, to say, now, if you purchase here today on this live webinar, I'm going to give you a price discount or a bonus or my one-on-one time or something like that to move people off the fence. Otherwise, they're just going to sit there and go, well, that was really interesting. Maybe someday I'll buy his product, right? So that's an example that I've really seen. And one of the best options, one of the best things to do is really build in your one-on-one time. So for someone like you, and I'm going to actually open this back up I'm doing this right now in my own business. That's why I'm thinking of it, with both Webinars That Work and LinkedIn Riches. So here's what I want to do. I've got 2 specials going on right now. I'm just going to wait on that. Let me get back here. Okay, so special. Let me just type this in. And if you're listening on the podcast, just email me, john@linkedinriches.com, if you want to know about these, and I can hook you up. So $500 discount plus 1 hour of my time for free. Here's an example of what I'm doing right now. So what I'm doing with both my online trainings, with Webinars That Work and LinkedIn Riches, and if you're on my email list, you probably saw this already, I'm running a special right now for 72 hours. So this is for people that have been through my webinars, been on the trainings, and here it is for Webinars That Work. And this is a perfect example for Webinars That Work. What I'm doing is I'm basically saying to people, hey, if you're really interested in my online training, my online course, I'm going to give you scarcity and urgency. The scarcity is I've limited this to the first 20 people, right? I'm going to give you an hour of my one-on-one time. That's the offer I have running right now to my email list. I basically say, hey, here's a couple different things. I'm going to knock $500 off the price of my online training. If you purchase, using this link, this one-time option, I'm going to give you an hour of consulting time free. And people want that, right? They want your time. And so that, for me, obviously is my most valuable commodity. My most valuable asset is time. I don't give it away. I don't just say, yeah, I'll jump on the phone and do coffee. Like, I never do that anymore. And that's something I want you to think about too. Your time is so valuable. Your time is incredibly valuable. So don't give it away, right? There's no reason in this day and age that you should be feeling obligated to play professional footsie with someone. Oh, let's have a call and explore mutual opportunities. Let's do coffee. Let's grab lunch. Like, you don't need to do that, right? If you're the real deal, if you're really good at what you do, your product, your service, you can market it in such a way where you can demonstrate that to people. You can earn that respect. And the ideal way is then people just come to you and say, wow, I've consumed all your free stuff online in the fashion that I wanted, in the time I wanted. How much to work with you personally? Versus schlepping all over town doing 100 coffee meetings with people that may or may not turn into customers. Now, yes, one-on-one meetings are great in the right context because you get to see people and talk and you can close people. So, if it's worth it for you, sure, if it's a high-ticket item and a really hot prospect. But what I have found, with scaling my time and then adding it to offers is when I'm saying no to just about everything else and I'm only saying yes to the right opportunities, I'm way more productive. I put out way better content. I get way better customers because they're consuming that content. They're believing me, knowing, liking, and trusting me. And their only question then is, how much to work with you? I'm ready. Where do I sign? And so that's the idea with these offers that I'm putting up to my email list too, is basically, hey, if you like me, if you want to get in, if you've been on the fence, you want to, get these courses, you just haven't pulled the trigger, I'm going to move you off the fence, right? Here's a $500 discount and an hour of time free. Right, and normally I'm billing out at $500 an hour for consulting. So, this is really a $1,000 discount. So it really works well, right? Scarcity and urgency with your product, with your offer. And the number one thing that you can give to people that they want is your time, your personal expertise, especially someone like Mark Sisson, who does the My Family Health Insurance, anybody that has coaching, consulting, speaking, author, anything where it's your expertise, your knowledge, don't sell that short. I think we live in this world, and I'm going to go on a rant here, so just bear with me, but we live in this world where people feel like, oh, you can just give me some free tips. Can I just pick your brain? Can I just have some free advice? No, I earned it, right? You earned it. You spent how many years learning how to do animated videos if you're Charles Alexander, right? You don't get to just pick his brain for free and buy him lunch. It's just not worth it. So that's a little rant. I want you to protect your time. I want you to make it valuable. Okay, so another question. And by the way, I see more people here on the Facebook Live feed. If you have questions, just type them in. And I will answer them here on the live stream, Nemo Radio Live. And then for the podcast, obviously, too, I'm going to be reading some of the questions that people already submitted. You'll be listening. So I'm trying to do a good job of remembering both my audiences. But that brings me to another point. I'm on a roll today. Becoming a media company. This is what I really want you to think about today. If you get nothing else out of this episode of Nemo Radio, understand the value and the importance in today's world of being your own media company. I want you to think about it this way. Facebook Live is your TV station. Your podcast is your radio station. Your blog is your newspaper. And if you're not putting out content on these channels that's valuable, that's engaging, that's entertaining, nobody cares about you. Nobody's going to buy your stuff. The days of just interrupting people and spamming them with ads are gone. It doesn't work, right? Do you like cold calling and interrupting people? I have people knock on my door every day, ignoring my no solicitor sign, trying to sell me stuff at my house while I'm eating dinner. I hate it. Just on principle alone, I'm not going to buy your product because you're interrupting me. You're bothering me, right? Same with cold calling. But when I get an offer from someone that I love following and consuming content from, I'm all ears, right? I have my favorite podcasts. I have my favorite TV shows. I have my favorite bloggers. When they have a product, I'm all ears because I already like all the free stuff. And so my challenge to you today, and this is a challenge I'm taking on myself, that's why I created Nemo Radio and the Facebook Live show and everything else is, yeah, Charles, I just got distracted by the comment. Everybody wants to chat for 15 minutes. Never works. Amen. Don't give away your time. But when I have a media company going, right, so I have what I'm doing right now, in fact, too, the beautiful thing about today's technology is you can multi-purpose all your content and feed these channels. So think about this. I'm doing a Facebook Live right now. This is a video I can put on YouTube for SEO purposes. I can have some text that goes with it. There's one way to use this content. I've got it on Facebook Live and then archived on Facebook as a video. There's two ways, two different TV channels, right? Third way is I'm going to export the audio and upload it as a podcast to all the people that want to take me around in their head. That's a third way. Fourth way is I can get a transcript over at speechpad.com, and I'll type that in as a resource. So let me put in resource, speechpad.com. For $1 a minute, you can go to speechpad.com. I can get this whole thing transcribed, sent back, spell checked, proofread, Microsoft Word document. Okay, so people can immediately read the transcript, or I can even turn it into an ebook or a blog post, something like that. So there's incredible tools. But the idea is being a media company. You're only as good as your content, right? You've got to earn your way into people's inboxes. You've got to earn your way into their wallets. You can't just ask. That's the number one thing. And I tell this story all the time of people always say, well, how did you get, Chris Brogan to endorse you? How did you get John Lee Dumas? And if you look at my LinkedIn Riches testimonial page, right, I've got Chris Brogan and John Lee Dumas and all these other people, Bob Berg, right, endorsing me. Big names, right? A-list people that immediately give me such credibility. And the reason is simple. I didn't go with my hand out saying, hey, Chris Brogan, I know you don't know me, but will you endorse my LinkedIn course? No, I had to earn that. So I really went all out. I went to Chris Brogan and John Lee Dumas and Jarek Robbins and Bob Berg and other A-list people, and I approached them cold and said, I know you don't know me, but here's the deal. I'm a LinkedIn trainer. I have a best-selling book on it. I'm fanatical about LinkedIn. I took a look at your profile. I think I could improve it. Can I have your permission? See the permission marketing team coming back. I said to these A-list people, can I have permission to, create a LinkedIn profile for you? You don't have to do a thing. You don't have to lift a finger. I do all the research online. I just use your website and everything else, your products. I'll rewrite and create just a pitch-perfect LinkedIn profile. This is what I do. And there's no strings attached. There's no catch. If you love it, great. You can use it. We can start building a relationship. If you don't like it, that's on me. No problem. And so what I was able to do with Chris Brogan and John Lee Dumas and Bob Berg and others was knock it out of the park, right? I put in the work. I spent the hours researching their brands and products. I used my LinkedIn expertise to create new profiles for them. They loved it. They used my profile text. Now that naturally built a relationship. I had earned their time and attention. I had to put in a lot of work up front, right? But that got me on the Entrepreneur on Fire podcast with John Lee Dumas, right? That got me featured with Chris Brogan on one of his live broadcasts. That actually got me doing joint venture webinars with Chris Brogan. That got Bob Berg endorsing me. So I earned it, right? So if you're Charles Alexander and you want to grow your animated marketing video business, approach some A-list people and say, in fact, even just do it without their permission. Just say, hey, I created this video about your business. I thought you might love to use it. Here you go, right? And people love that. When you do something for someone else that brings them value and you're not immediately asking for something in return with your handout, they're going to promote you, right? They're going to talk about you. They're going to share you with their friends. That's the way to do business in 2017. It's not, let's explore mutual opportunities. It's not, can we have a 15-minute phone call? It's not, can we do coffee? It's not, can I buy you lunch? It's not, can I pick your brain? It's, I want to do something of value that I think will help you make money. And if you find it helpful and valuable, then, we can build a relationship and talk more. Just start there. I'm telling you, there's no secret to it, right? That's how you build a platform. If you want other people, A-list people to endorse you, you go earn it, right? You don't get to just ask for it. Brandon Clark! All right, I love it. Brandon Clark's in the house. Another amazing guy. Brandon, you're another guy that you better not ever be giving away your time. Brandon, if you don't know, is and I talk about him, I feel like all the time, but he's an amazing guy. I'm in the same coaching group with him and Charles, and Brandon, does millions of dollars a year selling products on Amazon without ever having a warehouse or anything like that. Like, just he knows Amazon, right? So Brandon's a guy that started coaching, and it's like, first thing I'm thinking, if I'm Brandon Clark, no free lunches, no pick your brains, no coffees. Like, you pay for that. Because, Brandon, tell us in the comments, how long did it take you, Brandon, to really perfect what you're doing on Amazon? Because you did like 5 or 6 million in sales last year, but I'm guessing that didn't happen overnight. And the illustration I want to give for someone like Brandon or me or you, if you're a coach, consultant, and author, is don't give away your expertise. That's valuable. You don't get to walk into the Apple store and say, I'm just wondering, can I try out an iPhone for a month? And if I win some business with it, then I'll pay you like $50. Like, we wouldn't do that with physical products, right? The value is there. So don't do that with your digital products, with your mind, with your knowledge. And I'm just ranting about this because I see so many people doing it. And I get 3, 4, 5 emails every single day from people saying, can I pick your brain? I had a call yesterday from a nice guy. Hey, can I buy you lunch? I'll be in town. And I'm going to write him back. I haven't written back and say, no, you can't. Like, it's worth more than, a $10, steak at Applebee's. Like, no, like, you can hire me for $500 an hour. That's what it's worth. I've spent, 7 years getting really good at LinkedIn. Like, same thing. Brandon says, I've been in the SEO game for 9 years, solely on Amazon since 2013. So, dude, you spent 4 years, every waking moment of your professional life, perfecting Amazon. So people should pay for that, right? Okay, so I'm ranting, but I love it. I love it. This is what I'm talking about, man. All right, so more questions. I want to get to some of these questions people have sent. All right. Okay. Amika is sending in a question. She says, I want to know all about webinars, how they work, how I can use them for business, how can I make money from webinars. Her business is called Upstream Insider. It's an online oil and gas media company. In fact, the first one in Nigeria. Oh, very cool. Upstreaminsider.com. Amika Ike. All right. So all about webinars. Well, where do you start, right? Here's what I would say. Obviously, I've got a whole training on this called Webinars That Work, webinarsthatwork.net. You can get free trainings, tips, videos. Here's the 3 big questions everybody has about webinars. And in fact, I answer them in my free training just to kind of get people through that. Everyone's 3 big questions are, what platform do I use? What's the tech involved? And isn't it really difficult and time consuming to put together a presentation, right? And so the first question, what platform to use? There's one platform I love. It's phenomenal. It's less than $400 a year. It's unlimited attendees. It's unlimited webinars. It's amazing, right? And I'm going to whisper it into the microphone for all my podcast listeners and Facebook Live. Webinar Jam. Don't tell anyone. It's a Webinar Jam. It's phenomenal. And I walk through it in depth on my free webinar. Here, I'll put this in because webinarsthatwork.net/join. Webinarsthatwork.net/join. I have a whole free training on this, but I walk you through Webinar Jam and how easy it is. And that really gets people over that first hurdle that Amika's talking about is, how do I even get started? The platforms are so confusing. And so many people with webinars look at the platforms like GoToWebinar or Zoom or other ones. You have to pay through your nose, right? You have to pay based on how many people attend, or you have to pay every single month, $500, $1,000 a month. Webinar Jam is one payment, $397 a year, unlimited everything. And they're coming out with an all-new version that won't even use YouTube or Google. It's just live. It's real time. It's phenomenal. I'm in the beta version of it. It's awesome. So that's the first question people always have is the platform. And I walk you through on my webinar training how easy it is. So that gets you over that hump, Amika. Second one is it hard to do? Do I need tech? Do I need tools? No. You just need a computer and a microphone. That's it. You don't have to be on camera. You can. But But a lot of it is just presenting something, showing people, teaching them. So on the screen, teaching them something, showing them something, using, a presentation. And my favorite presentation software in the world, and I'm actually interviewing them for an upcoming podcast. And again, I'm going to whisper it, so these are all my best secrets. Don't tell anybody. Prezi. Did you hear that? Prezi, P-R-E-Z-I, Prezi.com. Phenomenal. And the reason I love Prezi, and I walk through it all on my webinar training, the reason I love Prezi for webinar presentations is you're able to use templates. They have templates for coaches and consultants. They have templates for a healthcare sales pitch. That's how niche they are. All you do is fill in the blanks, fill in the words, and you have a ready-made presentation that zooms around, looks amazing. And oh, by the way, it's a whole $7 a month. So there you go. There's no real hurdles to getting a webinar going. With Webinar Jam, you can have your first webinar set up and ready in 10 minutes because they've pre-done everything. The registration pages they host, the emails are pre-written. You can send them out using their servers, the follow-up emails. It's all automated. And that's the name of the game with webinars, is automating your effort. And the other big thing, too, that I would tell Amika or anybody else is you can bottle up your best effort. You do what's called a hybrid webinar. You record yourself on your computer using a screen recording software, going through your presentation. And then with Webinar Jam, you can still be on live and have a live webinar where you're talking to people at the beginning and welcoming them and warming them up. But then you just hit play, and it seamlessly plays your presentation video. So you just say something like, and now I'm going to jump behind the computer. I'm going to play this presentation for you. I'm going to be live in the chat as well. So sit back, get your notes ready, and let's roll. And what happens is people get your best possible presentation. It's pitch perfect. You have high energy. You as the presenter don't get drained. You don't stumble. You don't stammer. And people love it because they get the best presentation possible as it plays, and you watch along with them. And while that happens, you can monitor the audience. You can respond to chat questions in real time. You can launch polls. You can launch offers. And it's just an easy way to do webinars. It makes it so much simpler and smoother. Got to get a drink. Go Twins, huh? It's a Minnesota sports day, baby. Sorry about your Predators, Brandon and Charles. Man, bad ending there in the Stanley Cup. I'm going to pull a line out from Chris Brogan. Put in the comments what you're drinking right now. This should be entertaining. Put in the Facebook comments what you're drinking. And I actually just published a post on Chris Brogan today on Inc. magazine. So I want to share that with you. You guys will love it. It's a brand new post about Brogan. And for those that don't know Chris Brogan, oh my gosh, where do I start? New York Times bestselling author. He's a consultant for Google and Disney and all these other guys. I'm going to put a post in to an article I wrote on Inc. magazine today about Chris Brogan. So, yeah, there it goes. That just popped into the comments. Tell me in the comments, too, what you're drinking. I am curious. I want to riff off that. One of Chris Brogan's beautiful things. Green tea, Luz. All right, see, green tea rules. Come on, Facebook. All right, I think we're back. I got delayed there for a minute. It said poor connection. Put in the comments. Tell me what you are drinking. All right, one of the things that Chris Brogan does so well, and I put a link in there to this article, his email marketing strategy is brilliant. Chris Brogan basically owns a day of the week. He has this Sunday newsletter, and it's, really well read and opened, and people just love it. Mark Jones is drinking water. That a boy, Mark. Stay hydrated. Good to see you. But Chris always starts his Sunday email with, hey, I'm drinking a chai latte or cappuccino, whatever. Write me back and tell me what you're drinking. And I remember I interviewed Chris for my podcast, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You have this huge email list of thousands of people. You're asking them to reply. And he's like, yeah, how else do I engage with people? How else do I communicate? I'm like, oh my God. But it's brilliant because he's engaging with people. He's talking to them. He's treating his audience like they're human beings. He's asking for engagement. Tracy's got real exciting water with lemon. Tracy, whoa! Tracy, calm down. Do you need an Uber? Do you need a driver? Let me know. Water with lemon. Come on, I thought somebody would put in like whiskey or Jack Daniels. Come on, I'm just kidding. It's the middle of the day here. But what I love about Chris, and you can read it, it's a fascinating look into his email marketing strategy. And Chris is one of the best in the world at this. A couple things, if you don't want to read the whole article, if you're listening to the podcast, he has a really small email list. Relatively speaking, he has like 32,000 people on his email list. Now, wouldn't you think if you're Chris Brogan, New York Times bestselling author, Google, Disney, IBM, all these clients. He speaks all over the world, but he intentionally keeps his email list really small. He pairs it all the time, right? He unsubscribes people who aren't opening emails, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason behind it was he's got a wildly engaged tribe, right? He doesn't need a 300,000 person email list where 300 people open it, right? The thing with email marketing that I have learned and that Chris kind of reaffirmed for me was it's not the size of your email list that matters, it's the engagement, right? You could have a 1,000 person email list or 500 people, but if they're engaged, if they buy your products and services, if they evangelize you all over the internet, you're good, right? And so what Chris does every Sunday, he writes this newsletter and he asks people, reply, tell me what you're having for coffee, or tell me what your big challenge is today. Or he'll get personal too and talk about, I'm struggling with depression, or, things like I've talked about earlier on this broadcast was, humanizing yourself. And I've talked about that too, right? Struggling with depression, or I was missing my dad on Father's Day and I sent that out to my email list. I got all this engagement back. And people write him back and he says he gets 400 to 600 responses every single Sunday out of his, 30,000 people, whatever email list. And I'm like, so every single Sunday you write back? He's like, yeah, I answer every single email, 400 or 600 of them. And he goes, so I have a lot of email on Sunday, but the rest of the week, not so much, right? And it's brilliant because when I meet Chris Brogan fans, or when he suggests someone to his fans, they're the most engaged, dedicated, ready to take action crowd I've ever met. And that's because Chris and them have a relationship. They trust Chris, right? Because he's written them back and said, oh man, green tea, very cool, or whatever. Like, even he doesn't write back paragraphs and paragraphs, but he humanizes it. He uses people's names. He engages them. And that's just such a brilliant marketing tactic. I think that's something we can all pick up on. So if you want, read the article on Inc. There's more there, or just kind of put that away mentally. I want to know more of what people are drinking. So feel free to tell me in the comments. All right, I have a few more questions. Okay, and a lot of them were similar. So Ole Bo Larson, Carlos Puig. I think I kind of answered those because they're all asking about how to sell with webinars, how to make money with webinars. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, Scott Fenwick, fenwicksales.com. So Scott is a consultant and trainer. He says, what overhead costs are there in starting a webinar or webinar series? I see, and this is one of the top objections and questions people have. So this is a great question Scott asked. What overhead costs are there in starting it? Software, marketing, time, design services. What do you expect those costs to be, and what other costs might be incurred? Scott Fenwick, dude, you're my guy, and here's why. Because that's the same question everybody asks. The great answer to this is the costs are minimal, less than $500, less than $1,000 for sure. So what I mean is, if I walk you through my Webinars at Work training and set you up, platform, webinar jam, $400 a year, unlimited everything, good to go. Okay, get a good microphone, a USB microphone. I have a Blue Yeti. You can see it on the Facebook Live. I think it's like $100, so we're up to $500. Now you don't have to get a Blue Yeti, but I like it. It's high quality. What other costs? Design costs, $7 a month. Prezi. They have pre-done amazing templates, right? And if you don't know Prezi, it's like PowerPoint on steroids. It's online presentations, so there's no downloads, no apps, anything like that, but they zoom in, they zoom out, they move, they have incredible graphics. All you do is type in the text of what you want to have in a bullet point or whatever. Done. No graphic design skills needed. That's $7 a month for their pro plan. Okay. What other costs? Internet connection. That's it. You don't need a TV studio for the actual, people always say, what about, I have to build a bunch of landing pages on my website and build this and build that. No, not if you use Webinar Jam. They have all these pre-done registration pages. They host them. You just point people to the URL. The sign up is done. All the emails are done. The thank you page is done. You can survey people. It's all included. So like, I'm learning as I sell the Webinars that Work online training, the biggest hurdle people have is just thinking they can do a webinar. And that shocked me. I knew with LinkedIn Riches, when I was marketing LinkedIn and teaching people how to buy and sell on LinkedIn, I knew there was a misconception with LinkedIn, that people were like, wait, LinkedIn's just a job website. It's just for HR people or recruiters. You can't use LinkedIn to get sales. And so that's like the big hurdle I have to get people over always with LinkedIn Riches is, no, you can't, right? You can use LinkedIn. And that was the first big hurdle. With webinars, I was shocked. I didn't realize until, again, I engaged and asked my audience, what do you want to know about webinars? The number one thing was what Scott just asked was, platform costs, how do I get started? All these things. It's incredibly easy. And so I'm on this mission now so people will understand how easy webinars are. So more questions. Christine has questions. Christine is a coach, thrivecoachservices.com. Christine Suva. I would like to incorporate webinars into my business to start moving toward a one-to-many model instead of primarily one-on-one. Now she says, however, I primarily work with executives. I'm wondering, would executives actually be interested in webinars? I also work with the director level up, C-suite, so how likely are executives to tune into webinars, and what are the best platforms to use? Well, I just answered the best platform for you, Christine. And then I also want to point out something Christine said that's really interesting, which is the benefit, the beauty of a webinar. Instead of one-to-one communication, it's one-to-many, right? One-to-many. So you take, and I talk about this when I story tell with webinars that work. Right? I grew up as the son of two English teachers. They both taught in classrooms at a university. They had a limited group of people they could impact because, right, they're in a physical room, a physical space, teaching a group of 20 college kids or whatever. Webinars, you have a global classroom. There's no limit to the amount of people that can attend, and teaching sells, right? So the idea of a webinar is one-to-many, especially if you're a coach, a consultant, a speaker, an author, a trainer, you're monetizing your knowledge, or if you have a product or a service that solves a very specific problem for someone, a software platform, a tool, whatever, again, you can reach many people at once. So that's why I love webinars. That's why I made a whole course about it. That's why I sell all my products and services on webinars, because it's one-to-many. Will executives show up? Will C-suite people show up? Absolutely. Are you kidding? Think about this, right? As long as you make this intriguing, as long as you make it interesting, I think I actually wrote Christine back because I got all fired up in the moment and wrote her back about it, but of course they'll attend. Or they'll send someone to attend in their place, which is, their decision maker. They might send their director and say, this looks really interesting. I want you to go through it and report back to me. So yeah, is the ultra busy CEO of a huge company going to sit down and watch every webinar? No. But are they going to assign people to? Yes. Right? So it's the same idea. The whole key with webinars, you can get anyone to attend a webinar if you make it appealing enough, if you make it enough in their own self-interest, if you help really frame it as solving a core problem that CEO has with his or her company or his or her business. It's the same as a CEO attending a conference, right? Or a CEO sending their sales director to a conference or to a networking meeting or to a lunch or whatever. They will attend, or they will send their generals to attend your webinar. You just have to make it appealing. And that's, of course, I get into all that in webinars that work in the online course, but that's really the key. Anyone and everyone will attend webinars. And the same thing when I started building my business on LinkedIn, people would say, well, executives are too busy. They're not going to reply to you on LinkedIn. I appeal to such an important audience, John, that, they're not going to accept a LinkedIn invite and write back. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I built my whole business by appealing to CEOs and owners of companies. Like, of course they will. So if you don't know the backstory with how I grew my business on LinkedIn and LinkedIn Riches, I had a marketing agency that I opened on my own, working from home, quit my day job, no clients, or I had one client. That's how I was able to quit my job. And I had to get a bunch of business fast. And I knew the power of LinkedIn with 500 million members, et cetera, was you could go direct to the decision makers, right? There was no gatekeepers. There was no administrative assistant or secretary. There's no layers of, people in the way. I could go right to the owner of that company that I wanted to do marketing for and talk to him or her. And the key was just A, being able to find them, and LinkedIn made it very easy. B, being able to engage them. And I had a whole strategy, and I teach a whole strategy of how to engage people properly on LinkedIn so that they'll pay attention to you and want to talk to you. And then C was being able to present, what I could do for them in such a way that either they directly or, they farmed it out to their top person to consume the content, to consume the offer, to consume the bid, and then they signed off on it, right? It's no different than any other way that a CEO makes decisions. Either he or she personally invests his time to learn, or they send their top person or, a team leader to do it. Bottom line is you get the business either way. So don't get hung up on, they'd never come. Make it interesting. Anybody will attend, right? People will spend time. CEOs go and get Starbucks coffee, right? Because they love Starbucks coffee and caffeine, or they have someone go get it for them. So don't get stuck on that, Christine. Let me see. Steven Ronstrom. And do we have more questions? Because I see people on live too. If you have questions, if you want to pick my brain, you don't need to buy me lunch or anything. You can pick it right now, right? This is a value building exercise for you and me. So I'll get through a few more written questions too, because I want to honor those people that sent them in ahead of time. Steven Ronstrom, how can I be more efficient with social media? Stop wasting time and getting sidetracked. Thanks, John. Glad you're doing this. How to be more efficient with social media. Okay, that's really simple. One is turn off the channels that distract you, right? So what I mean by that is I get super distracted by Twitter, right? Because there's so many interesting things. There's so many news stories. For you, it might be Facebook. You've really got to discipline yourself as a business owner, as an executive, whatever. Only use those channels during the workday for work, right? And so whether that means, listening and engaging and replying to people, commenting on stuff that you're promoting about work or talking about work, fine. But really being focused. And the other way to really save time and be efficient with social media is to pre-schedule things. And I know some people don't agree and don't like that. I do, right? So I use Buffer and Hootsuite and other social media scheduling tools to kind of have set things and set times where I'll say, hey, new blog post about Chris Brogan and email marketing, check it out, and have that go out at a certain time where I don't have to physically type in the update. Or with Instagram, I preload or have someone on my team preload a bunch of posts and photos, and then I get a reminder in real time, oh, post it now. And why I like using tools like Buffer and Hootsuite for social media scheduling, Buffer in particular, which is the one I'm most familiar with, they analyze all your social media posts and traffic, and they come back and tell you the best times to post. So Buffer will actually say to me, hey, John, we're noticing when you post on LinkedIn, these times of day and these days of week are when you get the most clicks, the most likes, the most engagement. Do you want us to set up a schedule so all your LinkedIn stuff goes out at these times? Well, yeah, of course, right? Remove the guesswork. So that's one of my big things to be more efficient. And that was a great question by Steven, is schedule it ahead of time, analyze it, right? Okay, Mark Jones, we're getting live. How do you see webinars working as marketing or outreach for a local church? Oh, that's interesting. All right, Mark, tell me more in the comments about the church and what are you talking about? Just getting people in the door? Getting people to just come to the service? Or is there a specific program at the church? Talk to me. I could think, Mark, right away. And I'm a big believer. I love Jesus. I'm a huge Christian, so I love seeing this question. I'm fascinated by this. I would love to see churches do webinars. You could do a Bible study as a webinar where you kind of bottle up a really good teaching that your pastor has on a certain topic or a series. And I know churches do this already with daily emails or Facebook updates or things like that. And they have messages, sermons, archived. But idea of some live teaching, some live training, maybe too, you get into some specific niche audiences like, parenting, right? So you appeal to moms in your community. You could use Facebook ads to target, mothers in your city, in your zip codes, to say, hey, we're going to do a free webinar for moms in the Nashville, Tennessee area about, 3 ways to make summer more fun for your kids, while sharing God or something like that. So then you could have a webinar where you take some of your vacation Bible school type programming or teaching, right, and you teach it to the parents on the webinar or to the moms, right? Like, hey, we're going to give you some practical tools, some practical tips to help your kids, blah, 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 get whatever benefit. The mom's going to want that. They're going to consume that. And then your call to action or your ask can be, hey, if you want more of this type of training, sign up for our newsletter or come to Vacation Bible School or whatever it might be. So those are some examples. Mark is saying we could use it for an event or children's program. Also just get people in the door. A podcast. Yeah. I mean, try it. Like, I think the key for you, Mark, would be for doing a webinar would be, how do we, let's focus on a niche or target audience. You wouldn't just want it to be anything to anybody. And I would focus, since you're a local church and you want people to come to a physical location, I would focus on promoting and marketing the webinar with Facebook ads that you can target by zip codes to certain demographics, men of these ages or women of these ages or married couples, whatever it is. For instance, if you wanted to appeal to men about how to be a better father, you could do a webinar on fatherhood, right? Biblical teaching about fatherhood, or how to raise your kids the right way, something like that, like All Pro Dads, that's a ministry. There's different ways. Teaching, people are always hungry for teaching, right? And what you could tell people too is if you can't attend live, we'll give you a replay, an archive of the event, blah, blah, blah. But either way, they sign up, you get their email as the church, and you also get an idea of, oh, here's this person, they're local, we can send them more content around that. Same idea. So, yeah, good stuff. Anybody else has live questions, type them in, but I got a few more I want to get through. I'm just reading some good pre-written questions. All right, so let's do Tommy Pavia. Appreciate the invite. I'm a startup business. I have invented strength equipment that, the NFL, Carolina Panthers are using, Princeton University. Wow, that's cool. We also have a big name retail sports specific training company who has said our product is awesome. So you've got some kind of sports product, strength training product. What I want to know is what is one straight up simple way from start to finish dummy proof? 360 strength training systems. Well, Tom, there's a bunch of different directions you can go with this. I mean, are you talking webinars? Are you talking LinkedIn? And this was a pre-written question, so it's a little hard to answer that. You're welcome, Mark Jones. I'm glad you found that helpful. I would say if you've got a physical product like that and you've got endorsements from, or you can get endorsements from the Carolina Panthers, NFL team, Princeton University, I would approach it a couple ways. I would use LinkedIn, and I would go and target specifically, right? Because remember, the power of LinkedIn Riches, is you can find the exact decision makers at the different either athletic teams or universities or sporting goods stores or retail outlets. You can find those exact people, talk to them, engage them, share what the equipment is. You could find trainers on LinkedIn, athletic trainers, and say, hey, I see you do strength training for a living. We've got a product the Carolina Panthers are using. Could I send you a sample, see what you think of it? If you like it, then whatever, we can build a relationship. Because that way, Tommy, you could start getting your product in the hands of influencers. So if I'm a strength trainer and I already have a good following on Instagram, because I'm showing all my, I'm flexing my pecs right now. You should see these things. 2 tickets to the gun show, baby, for my podcast listeners. Just imagine me ripped and flexing. Because, right, that's a whole thing on Instagram and Facebook is, fitness trainers, strength trainers, flexing and showing off. And imagine, Tommy, if you got that product into the hands of some real influential strength trainers. And they're doing Instagram updates and photos with your product. Hey, I'm loving this. I'm getting ripped. That would be a great way to promote your product. That's what I would be doing. So good question. More questions. I'm having fun. Let's see. Karthik Rajan. And hopefully I'm saying that correct. Shelf life of a blog versus a webinar versus a podcast versus a conference. What has the best shelf life? Blog versus webinar versus podcast versus conference. Woo! The answer would be everything but the conference. Obviously, and even a conference you can argue could have a long shelf life. I think what I want to do is break this down a little bit. The shelf life of a blog is a lot longer than you think. I've been analyzing the traffic on my websites, linkedinriches.com, webinarsthatwork.net. See that little plug right there? Wasn't that good? But anyway, especially linkedinriches.com. The most visited and most popular posts on the platform are posts that I wrote 3 or 4 years ago. And that's a blog post with a really long shelf life because it's just been read so many times and shared and archived and SEO. So a really good blog post, you can get mileage for years and years and years from. So definitely valuable. A webinar, it depends if it's live or automated, right? So a live webinar has a very short shelf life, right? You do the live event, maybe do a follow-up for a couple days to the people that attend, and then it's done, right? The replay is done. An automated webinar is the way to go, right? I have automated webinars. My LinkedIn Riches webinar has been running automatically for a couple of years now, right? And that brings in, 5 figures in revenue every single month, just on there. I never touch it. I never have to talk to anyone. Everything's automated, right? It's beautiful. So great shelf life. A podcast can have quite a shelf life. I don't think quite as long necessarily as the other ones, although people can always stumble across it and find it. The problem with the podcast is your topic and your content. Is it evergreen? Is it something that anyone can use anytime? Or did you do a podcast on, this new social network that a year from now is obsolete, right? Remember Ello? That was going to be the big Facebook killer. Most of you probably are like, what's Ello? But in social media circles about a year ago, 2 years ago, oh, there's this new network, Ello, it's going to just destroy Facebook. And it's like gone. Like no one even uses it. Like if you had done a podcast on that and I found that a year later, it's like not relevant. So if you're going to do a podcast and you want longer shelf life, then it needs to be more evergreen, more theories and ideas, I would say. And a conference obviously is pretty short. It's one and done, but you can bottle up the conference and sell the audio tapes or the video recording, permanently. So again, just depending on the content. So good questions though. Okay, Starvell Drake has a good question. Thanks for reaching out. Here's my question. How can event planners use webinars to market to potential clients? My business name is 5-Star Events. And then the website by5starevents.com. Event planners, here's what I would say. If you know who your target audience is, you could go after them, right? So let's say the people at certain trade associations or companies that have to do their yearly company retreat or conference or, executive getaway, whatever it is, like, those people. What you could do, Starvell, is create a webinar that basically walks through how do I ensure my event goes off without a hitch, right? The 3 critical elements of planning a successful executive retreat, right? That could be your webinar. And then you train them. You train these core targeted people who are, the event planner for their company or the HR person that has to set up the retreat. Here's the 3 things you have to do correctly, when you set up a conference, right? Or whatever it is. And then at the end, your call to action on the webinar is now you can see, right? You can walk away with these tips I gave you today of how to make sure you do the right type of event. If you want it really easy, you can just hire a company. We'll do the whole thing. We've been doing it for 20 years. Here's our testimonials. If you're coming to Houston, Texas, or wherever you're located, we'll put on the event, blah, 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 stress-free. And what you've done through that webinar is you've built the trust, you've demonstrated your knowledge, your authority about event planning, and by the end, the natural extension for them is, well, why wouldn't I just hire this company to do it? They're brilliant. This is what I'm looking for. Somebody who knows what they're doing. Great, I can hand it off. So that's how I would use that as an event planner. Just any industry, anything is, here's some ideas of how you can do this better. But most people don't want to do it themselves. Most people want you to do it for them. People will always pay for fast, easy, and efficient. People will always pay for done for you. So don't forget that. Let's do one more question. And then I'm going to save the rest for the next show because we have so many good ones. All right, so Eddie Baller. I like the name, Eddie. That's strong. Eddie Baller. What's the best way to create a personal connection during a webinar? And he has a business called Conquer and Win, dating and personal growth coaching for men. Oh, that's interesting. ConquerAndWin.com. Eddie Baller. Here's what I would say, how to create a personal connection. And it's funny your timing on this, Eddie, because I just created a follow-up email. So for people that go through my webinars that work training, the webinar and don't purchase, and I talked about this at the beginning of this session, but what I do is I send out a series of follow-up emails with more training and more content. So if you went on the webinar and you didn't buy, I'm going to keep sending you more free tips to build up more knowledge and more value and more trust. And one of those is, one of the first emails I send is kind of the 2 critical steps to get people engaged and build a personal connection on a webinar. And so what those are in a nutshell, without doing the whole training right now, is basically as soon as people get on, I have a couple of specific questions I ask them. And I'm talking about a live webinar, right? So what always works, and remember, our favorite topic of discussion is ourselves, right? We love to talk about ourselves. So what I do is as soon as I get on a live webinar, I call out people by name because I can see the name they signed in with. I say, hey, Charles, hey, Joe, hey, Nancy, great to see you. Now, everybody, tell me in the comments 2 quick things. Where are you from? Where are you logging in from? And what type of work do you do? Because people, that's a safe thing. They feel like, okay, I'm from Minnesota and I do, online courses, or I do online marketing, or I'm a PR guy, or whatever it is. And then once people cross that threshold, once they enter something into the chat, once they tell you about themselves, it really starts that engagement because now they're a little bit more invested. And it especially increases if you riff off that and talk to them. Oh, hey, cool, Joe, a dentist in New York. Oh, Joe, great to have you. Don't ask if I flossed, like Joe, the dentist, hears you calling him out by name and replying to him. That builds engagement, that builds a connection. So right away when you start a webinar, break the ice with some of those questions, ask people in the comments, to tell you some things about themselves, and then reply and engage. Just small talk, but it really works well. So great questions. I'm going to save the rest of these. There's a ton for the next show. But I want to thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Nemo Radio. I am so excited to keep the train rolling here. If you have any comments, thoughts, questions, let me know here on Facebook. If you're listening to this on iTunes, on the podcast, or your favorite podcast app, leave me a review. Let me know if you're finding value. I would love it. Feedback is my oxygen. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and end the live broadcast for now. Nemo Radio is going off air, but we will be back again with a show very soon.